The Three Drunkards by Verboquet, Généreux, 16th century. There were three gossips in a little Normandy village, neighbours and great friends, who often told each other secrets of their household affairs. There was nothing done by one of their husbands, but news was at once carried to the houses of her companions. In the end, the three women all found themselves provided with husbands of equal stupidity, and they were often able to have a good time together in the marketplace. There only remained one drawback in their lives, but this they found almost insupportable. For on the days when their three friends set out to enjoy themselves together, their husbands went to a tavern, and there drank so much that they lost most of their good sense. Scarcely could they get back home, and when each of them met his wife, there was no pot, platter, or stick that he did not use in greeting her. So the good dames concluded one day to punish their men for their drunkenness. Their husbands went as usual to the tavern, and their wives spied on them. While the men were drinking, three preaching friars came in and asked for alms. The jolly topers, who were sitting at the table with their backs to the fire, made room for the friars, and they all began to see who could drink the most, and each put such zest into drinking that, when it grew late, they had much trouble in getting back to their houses. The first wife, seeing her husband so profoundly asleep that it would have been easier to flay him than to wake him, took some scissors and tonsured his crown like a monk's, and dressed him in monastic garments which she was able to borrow. She then let him sleep in his frock until daybreak, when, being accustomed to breakfast, he looked around for some food. "How long have you slept, reverend father?" said the woman in pretended astonishment. "Had you not better rejoin the other religious men of your order?" The husband, still dazed by his wine, did not look at his wife, and yet grew angry with her. But she, like a woman sure of her ground, went on the same tone. "Sir, out of pure devotion, I gave you a lodging here for the night. But I tell you that your companions have now departed, fearing that you would remain here alone, which would not be seemly and decent for a person in your way of life." The husband, in utter astonishment, touched himself here and there, and, feeling his shaved head and his monk's frock, was terrified. "Heavens! Isn't this me? Isn't this Jean?" he cried. His wife continued to call him sir, and treat him with great reverence, and she managed to get him so well with the flat of her tongue that, still being half drunk, he could only remember he had been drinking with some monks, and seeing himself thus clothed, he thought that by the vengeance of heaven he had been transformed into a friar. And so strongly did this mad opinion take hold of him that he asked his wife to point out the road the other monks had taken. His wife replied that he could scarcely catch up with the other friars, but that out of pity she would pay his mass for him if he wished to say it. As the parish priest was aware of the trick the women were playing, and was helping them to cure their husbands of drunkenness, poor Jean, reduced to utter stupidity, was led by his wife to the church, and clothed in the ornaments proper to a funeral service, then conducted to an altar. The second wife, who did not wish to fail in her part of the enterprise, began to flatter her husband as soon as he awoke, and revive his spirits. "You know, my dear, this is a festival day. Your gossip Jean so repents the time he has spent in evil ways that he has taken religious vows, and today he is saying his first mass, and by hearing it you will be infinitely benefited. Would you not like to confess your sins to him?" Poor Guillaume, amazed and half unwell from drinking too much, began to lament his faults, and in this frame of mind came to the church. There, seeing his crony Jean ready to say his office, he took a handful of candles and knelt down and offered them, begging pardon for his mistakes. The third wife, who desired to carry the description to its highest point, had, at daybreak, shrouded her husband like a corpse, and placed him on a bier which was borne into the church. As Guillaume presented his offering, the dead man opened his eyes a little, and caught a glimpse of Jean in the garb of a preacher. He was ready to laugh at the folly of his two old cronies, but, feeling still the fumes of the night before, and finding himself on a bier with lighted candles around him, he strongly doubted if he was still alive. He dared not speak or move, as all three of them remained in this nightmare until the sun rising higher made them see more clearly what strange devotions can be produced by the fumes of good wine and the malice of women.